I'm Anita Robertson. I'm so happy to be here with you today to talk about the Value Added Producer Grant Program. This program is administered through USDA through the Rural Development Business Cooperative Service. It's a lot of material that I'm going to be covering today. My goal is to speak for about 45 minutes, open it up for questions. Please feel free to use the chat for any questions, and I'll ask Lydia if she would help me monitor that. And the Value Added Producer Program is part of the Local Agricultural Marketing Program, LAMP, that was created under the Farm Bill. I'm a two-time award recipient of the Value Added Producer Grant Program. I received both a planning grant and a working capital grant. I'm a farmer producer located outside of Fredericksburg, Virginia, in Spotsylvania County, where my husband and I have a small 10-acre farm called Botanical Bites and Provisions. Here we grow a diverse assortment of produce, cut flowers, and I also raise honeybees. I develop value-added products from my honey and beeswax and ventured into natural cosmetics, where I make soaps, lotions, lip balms, and salves. For full disclosure, I'm going to be using a lot of the materials from USDA, of course, also from the National Sustainable Agricultural Coalition, and I list that as a resource for you to use. Let's get into the presentation. The objective of this presentation is to get you excited about value-added products and to give you a big overview of what the program is all about, inspire you to seek funding so you can grow your agricultural operation through value-added products. Let's start with the definition of value-added products. It generally involves one of the four or the five elements below, changing a state, a physical state, such as transforming strawberries into jams, looking at a product and marketing it for its special characteristics or its special identity, such as something that's organically grown or GMO-free, transforming that natural resource into energy, taking manure or corn and making it into a fuel. Looking at a marketing program, such as what we have in Virginia called Virginia Grown or Buy Local. And then the last is linking farmers with special supply networks, such as the Farm to School Network. These are some of the things that farmers can implement to fall in line with a value-added product. Let's look at the requirements. These grants are awarded through a national competition. First, they're competed at the state level. As Emilio said, that this program is usually offered annually, and it's announced through what's known as the Federal Register. The Federal Register is pretty much the newspaper for the federal government that announces rules, laws, presidential actions, or executive orders. And it's also announced through grants.gov, which is the online portal that if you're going to apply online, this is what you would use to submit your application. However, not every farmer is privy to great internet services. So USDA also allows farmers to submit applications through their state office at Rural Development, and we'll talk more about that. How do you find your value-added announcements? There are two ways that I would recommend that you do it. You can go to the USDA website and sign up online, and this is the email link that you would do it at. The next is you can search through, after you register, well, you don't even have to register, but if you go to grants.gov, you can search there for all the grants that are federally related. It's a requirement that all federal funding be publicly announced, and this is the portal in which it can be announced. What you would do is select that you want to find anything that's forecasted or presently posted. Select that you're looking for grants because there are other funding vehicles that are offered on this portal. And then you're looking for agricultural related products, grant products. Okay. Now we're going to talk about value-added resources, producer grant resources. And of course, I'm going to use the ones from last year. These are the regulations that you're going to use if you're interested in applying for the value-added grant. Here is where the notice for the Federal Register will be published, and these links are live links. And also, you're going to want to go to grants.gov that we spoke of before. And you're also going to want to have a SAMS.gov registration. SAMS stands for the Systems for Award Management. And this is the vehicle, which is separate from grants.gov, that you have to register in order to receive funding from the federal government. It's sort of like a procurement portal and a finance portal mixed together. There is no fee to register in SAMS.gov. So be very wary if you receive emails from folks saying that they'll do this for you. This is a process that you can do yourself, and you can do it for free. If you're looking to do value-added products that are alcohol or tobacco related, you're going to want to go to this link because there's additional information and regulations you're going to need to follow. Same thing for hemp. You're going to need to go to the Agricultural Marketing Services Hemp Protection Program if you have a hemp-related value-added product. Another thing that I highly recommend, and it was very helpful for me when I applied, was I looked at past value-added grant recipients, award recipients, to find out what they had done to make their products so successful. Here, you're only going to find a high-level overview of what they did. However, this is enough to give you a general idea of what their project involved. Lastly, you want to look at some YouTube videos. There are a lot of resources out there on YouTube, some good, some bad, but this one that I recommend below at this link, you may find pretty helpful. Again, YouTube is loaded with lots of information that will help you as far as grants.gov, get you started in understanding how to apply on SAMS.gov and through the grants.gov portal. So please use these resources liberally because you will find them invaluable. Again, we talked about past grant awardees. There is a link on the internet that will share some of the stories. They have case studies on what these farmers have done in order to become value-added producers. And I highly recommend that you go there. And then the next link is how one of the case studies would look. And it will tell you the year they were awarded, give you a general overview. In fact, this is pretty much an executive summary as a requirement that value-added producers will have to write in order to send in as part of their package for their application proposal. Okay, let's talk about 4 things that you can do right now in order to get ahead of the program to apply for your value-added producers grant. The first thing is to look at the previous year's Federal Register announcement. As you can see, I tried to blow this up so you could see what it actually will look like. The first thing you're going to want to pay attention to are the deadlines. As you can see, there are 2 deadlines that are listed. One is for the electronic submission that you would enter into grants.gov. The second one is if you're going to do a hard copy submission. Say you don't have strong internet, and this would be a major inconvenience, then I would advise you to go that route. The other thing that you really need to make sure that you do is select your appropriate state. Each state has different goals as far as what they're looking for. Think about California. Do you think California needs more winemakers? Maybe that's not something that they're going to emphasize and fund this year. So you want to make sure you select your appropriate state. The next thing is the blue bar is going to link you to the fact sheet about the program, your Federal Register notice, and give you below the information in which you're going to need to rely on to apply. Let's see, next slide. Again, just kind of blew this up so that you can see that you still have the availability to apply either by mail to your USDA state office, or you can do that electronically. Also note that the deadlines are different depending on which method you choose to apply with, either online or electronically. The next action that you're really going to need to take notice of is your SAMS.gov registration. SAMS.gov can be a little complex to use. We highly recommend that you apply at least a month in advance, but I would even go further to say for you to start applying now because of the complexity of SAMS.gov. The application process, again, is free, and you also need to make sure that your SAMS registration stays active for your entire duration of your grant award. Once you register in SAMS.gov, that registration is good for 1 year. And I think the reason they do that is because things may change. Your business structure may change. You're looking to grow your business. You may have more employees. You may have taken on accountants, lawyers, those kinds of people. And on the SAMS.gov registration, you'll need to detail who your significant employees are that are related to the financial structure of your business. Also, you're going to need to have what's known as the unique identity identifier number. This is sort of like your business's social security number in addition to your EIN, and you're going to need to have that number when you apply for your grant. Again, you're going to need to read your Federal Register notice in detail and have all this information in order to apply. Again, this is the grants.gov portal, and this is what it looks like. It has a lot of information that you can use. It has some information on grant writing basics to help you if you need some wordsmithing assistance, just general things to help you become a better grant writer. And it will go through the grant life cycle. It has a lot of tutorials on YouTube that you can link through this portal, and I highly recommend that you use it. Again, on grants.gov, it takes you through the whole learning process, things you need to check on through the grant writing process. It comes up with a little checklist. It has the ability to search. Again, of course, you need to register if you're going to use it as part of your application process. And then it goes through all the steps that you need to take to apply, even the forms that you need for the application itself. Grants.gov is full of resources to get you on your way there. Let's talk about proposal development. The main thing that you want to do is transform your idea into something that's well written and well justified so that you can link your budget request to your proposal. These are some questions that will help you get there through that stage of the grant. First thing you want to know, besides the money, what are the things that you need in order to apply for this value-added producers grant? This is where all the interrogatives, the who, what, when, how you're going to get there come into play. It's also going to allow you to project where you see your value-added product business going in the first year, the second year, all throughout the duration of the grant, and how you're going to make an economic impact in your community and in your state. How are you going to market these resources, once you produce them? You're going to address all of these things in your proposal narrative, and you need to fully link them to your budget realistically. The next thing you want to do is to make sure that you are understanding your grant requirements. The value-added producers grant is a very large document. I mean, the actual application itself. So you want to make sure that you understand all the conditions and the constraints of your program. You need to know who is eligible to apply. There are also priority points that are available. And if you fall into these categories here, there are extra points that will be awarded to your program. And we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to the part on the evaluation process for the value-added producer grant. When you talk about who's eligible, the folks that are eligible are, of course, agricultural producers, and the producers have to supply at least 51% of the raw commodity that goes into the value-added producer product. If you are a business that, say a cooperative that's applying, you have to show that the farmer ownership or all the components of that ownership are eligible to apply. And the other thing is that if you have a working capital request of more than $50,000, you have to support that by an independent feasibility study and a business plan. However, if your application is asking for less than $50,000, then there is a simplified application process for working capital request, and that will expedite the application process, and we'll get into that a little bit more. Also, you need to know what things your value-added proposal can ask for. What are the fundable elements of the program? Funds cannot be used to repair, acquire land or buildings, do any type of construction for a building or facility. It can't be used to purchase, rent, or install fixed equipment. So you need to be familiar with the legal basis for your value-added producer grant. Okay, again, we've got to make sure that you have grant eligibility. And this is the slide that kind of covers what those things are and who can apply for the value-added producers grant. Hopefully, you are in those categories. Again, more detail, and here's the legal ramifications or justification of and definitions of what constitutes an eligible applicant. Again, I mentioned priority points are available. These are the categories in which applicants fall to receive those priority points. And I'll also make these slides available for sharing. Let's talk about your work plan and your budget proposal. This is the area that is probably the one that gets everybody's attention when they start looking at the dollars, and they get so excited about that. When we talk about planning grants, here are some examples of where planning grants could be used. Say, for instance, you have a website, you did it yourself. It doesn't look quite as professional as you think it should. It's not attracting the customers that you would like to come into your business. Website redesign is an area. You need a business plan. This is an area in which you could qualify possibly for a planning grant. Working capital grants. If you're looking to expand your staffing, you need money for salaries. That would be a potential area that you could target funds for a working capital grant. If you need packing materials, suppose you have a CSA and your CSA has grown exponentially from 100 customers to 1,000 customers, and you need boxes, you need packing supplies and other inputs. Also, there's a maximum grant amount that you can ask for these grants, and they're listed here on the slide. For planning grants, the maximum award is $75,000. Working capital grants, the maximum is $250,000. Just because there are maximums, it doesn't mean if you can't justify that full amount, you shouldn't request it, because they'll be able to see through the fluff that you've got in your narrative. Again, we talked about the simplified grants. If you're asking for less than $50,000, then you fall in the simplified grant proposal. However, any request of $50,000 or more has to be supported by an independent feasibility study and business plan. My very first request was for the planning grant, in which I did a feasibility study, and I worked with an independent consultant who worked with me to write my business plan. If you're already in a market with a lot of experience and you're posed for expansion, and you've been in business for more than 2 years, for at least 2 years or more, then you can submit your business plan or marketing plan in lieu of a feasibility study. Another thing it's important to note, that you've got to have some skin in the game in order to qualify for a value-added producer grant. These grants are one-to-one funds matching. What I mean by that is, if you're asking for $50,000, you need to have proof and have money available to you that you have an additional $50,000 to put together for whatever your proposal. So whatever you're asking for, there's a one-to-one funding match. There's another funding, sorry about that, called in-kind funding. What this means primarily is, say, for instance, you have a supplier, or your nephew has a farm down the street, and he's willing to supply you strawberries for your proposal. And he's going to do this out the kindness of his heart. Free raw goods entered into your proposal, and you've got a document that this person is willing to do this, is permitted. However, the grant regulations say that this in-kind funding can't exceed 25%. So you would value whatever those strawberries cost as a donation to apply against your matching funding request. And all matching funds have to be verifiable at the time of your application. And it's not just a letter, it's got to be a note from the bank, a note from the person that's doing the donating, saying that they're legally saying that they will do this, and this is the cost, an objective cost of what the value of that product or donation would be. This is the funds verification form that would be enclosed in the packet within the toolkit, the application toolkit, to verify the funds are available. If you can note, this is from either a lender, your bank, or the legal donor, verifying that they're going to provide the documentation to prove for in-kind contributions or donations of raw materials or supplies or services. Okay, let's talk about your work plan and your budget. You, as an applicant, must devise a work plan, and that work plan needs to correlate to all the budget requirements. It's going to be in a narrative format, and you're going to outline all of your activities that were related to either creating that value-added product and marketing that value-added product. In so doing, you're going to also justify and identify all the people that are involved in creating that product, along with the activities and the tasks that they will be performing associated with that product. Time frames and are also required, and they should correspond to the task in the order in which they're accomplished. In addition, you're going to identify all your grant funding, all the in-kind resources and services that are involved in creating that product. And at the end, everything has to fall in line with the start date of the grant to the end of the grant. And I think the thing that's really important is to make sure that everything is scaled to the complexity of the product. For example, if you're making jams and jellies and your 9-year-old niece is going to be responsible for harvesting 10 acres of jelly, you got to make sure whoever is assigned to that product, that is a realistic goal for somebody of that age. And because other farmers are going to be looking at your submission, and they know what happens on their farm, and they know what's realistic and what's not. Okay, here are some areas that you want to make sure that you rely on for your work plan and budget development. This is where your bookkeeper, your accountants, whoever's doing your financial records can give you some help in devising your budget. Obviously, you're going to also look at your capacity for developing your business. Look at your organizational chart. Where is it starting out? Where do you see it growing, and how is it going to grow? Look at your personnel cost. What kind of benefits? Are you offering them health insurance? What additional expenses do you see happening? What type of skill sets do you see your employees needing to develop? What kind of training programs do you see them needing to attend to get to where you need them to be? How are you going to meet these matching requirements? If you're asking for $50,000 and you only have 25,000, where's the additional resource going to come from? The other thing that we want to make sure you do is start asking for these letters of support and letters of commitment as soon as possible, because most people take a long time to get these things together. So, and one of the things that I would also recommend that you look at is offering to write them for the individuals. I found when I wrote the letters, it took a load off of people. And I knew exactly what I needed to say in the letter. I needed to make sure the scope and the breadth of whatever they were going to do to support me as far as their commitment, if they were going to provide resources, additional beeswax if my bees didn't produce this year, or, they swarmed on me. I had a backup plan. Okay, how can funds be used and how can they not be used? Acceptable methods of using funds are for your processing cost, marketing and advertising expenses, acquiring inventory and paying for salary, your feasibility studies, developing your business plans, plans for processing and marketing, ways to add value. Ineligible uses of your grant funds, again, you can't use it to acquire, repair, or construct a building facility. Transportation of your commodity is a way to get your proposal to be rejected. Purchasing land, again, purchasing, repairing, renting, and installing equipment are ineligible uses. Paying for the preparation of a grant application is another way that your grant funding will be rejected. Research and development is not allowed because the success of your value-added product is something that should already be known. If you submit an application that has ineligible uses of grant funds that exceed 10% of your project's total cost, that project will be rejected. Again, YouTube is your friend. Make sure that you use some, avail yourself to YouTube videos. Your application forms, there are two different application forms, one specifically for your planning grant, another for the working or your operational grant. Again, they can be found either online through the Federal Register announcement, or you can access them through grants.gov. There are additional instructions, as I mentioned earlier, that are available. If you fall into any of these 4 categories, please see these additional PDF files in order to see the additional materials that are related. Again, grants.gov has availability of forms. And again, we wanted to highlight about if you're asking for less than $50,000 and you're looking to do a working capital grant, you will be able to submit a simplified application. And on your application, you're going to check this block. And you understand that you don't have to provide a feasibility study. but you've got to demonstrate that you're going to expect to increase the number of customers to your operation and that you're going to expect to increase profitability. Again, each state has its own application requirements. Here is a copy of what it looked like for Delaware and Maryland last year. And on the right side, this is what it looks like for Virginia. They look very similar, but of course, there are some little differences. Again, applications can be submitted through grants.gov, and this is what the actual toolkit will look like. And you want to make sure that you're using the right toolkit, and it will state clearly on the outside. One of the things that you're going to note is your planning grant application toolkit is going to be significantly fewer requirements than your working capital grant application. This toolkit is going to be for the working capital about 80 pages, whereas the planning grant toolkit is going to be about 46, I believe. One of the things to note is that you don't have to use the exact template to apply. However, why would the government give you a template to use and you not use it? I know I wouldn't want to retype 80 pages. When you download the application, it's going to be in either a PDF or a Word format. To me, it's a lot easier to use what the government's already given you. However, they make it quite clear that if you use their template, it doesn't imply that they're going to look at your application any more favorable. However, all the information's already there, so it's going to decrease your workload by using the template. The main thing is that you respond appropriately to all of the questions on the template. And your responses be thorough and supportive. Okay, here's what the planning kit toolkit is going to look like. I'm using just the planning kit because I know that we don't have enough time to go through both toolkits, so I'm just going to go through them briefly. And the first section is that I talked about is pretty much summary information about your operation, just to identify who you are, what type of applicant you are. The second one is going to help you build your executive summary. Your executive summary is what's going to show if you're selected for a grant award, this is what's going to be shown to the public about your project. So you want to make sure that you follow the guidelines, that you limit this to one page. You talk about who you are, your applicant type, how much you've requested, provide a nice, succinct summary of your project, what your goals are, and how you plan to use these grant funds. Section 3 is going to go over all your eligibility requirements. In the slides before, we want to make sure that we show that we are American citizens and that we have legal authority to apply for this program on behalf of this business entity. The second part of the toolkit is in the general eligibility is that you're saying that you are eligible. If you are applying for a value-added producer grant on more than one application, you are confirming that you're eligible to do that. That, or if you have an active value-added producers grant already in operation. There are rules about that, and you want to make sure that you follow all the guidance that will allow you to be eligible to do that. The next one on section 4, you're still talking about your eligibility. You're acknowledging that you do, in fact, own and produce the raw materials that go into that value-added product. The next section is dealing with ownership. And you want to make sure that all the owners that are involved are valid owners and showing the role in the production process. The next section, section 5, is talking about eligibility. It's going to talk about, again, the inputs that go into the value-added product and that they're produced in the United States or an American territory. You're also going to outline all the methodology that's used in your value-added product. All this information will be kept proprietary. Your proprietary secrets will be honored. So don't worry about, not, talking about what you need to talk about to ensure that your product and your supply chain is realistic and detailed. The next part is you want to talk about or look at the evaluation criteria. This is a very, very important part of the program because, or your proposal, because this is where you're going to see how your proposal is going to be evaluated. And you want to get as many points as possible. There are 4 different areas that you want to be proficient in and get as many points as possible. You want to make sure that, any technology in your project, even if you're making jam, that, the ingredients to make the jam come together and they make a good product. Because somebody may go and use your recipe to make sure it's a realistic recipe. That as far as your operation, that you don't have fluff in your operation, that you're hiring people, 10 people to do a job that 3 people can do. You want to make sure that your outcome is a profitable one and that it's going to be sustainable for the long run. Here's more information on criteria for the evaluation aspect of your project. The main thing that I would say that you make sure of is that you are able to bring in customers. There's no sense in having an operation that's not going to be attractive and profitable, because that's where your revenue is going to come in. At the end, there are appendices, and there are, I think, 8 appendices. And again, your priority points that are available, you want to make sure that you get all the points that are available to you, that you answer any questions. If you have special value-added products, such as things related to alcohol, hemp, or tobacco. You're matching funds. You want to make sure that, you outline how you're going to come up with that one-to-one match and any other supporting document that you need in order to meet the program requirements. Legal authority, you've got to make sure that you are paying your taxes and that you're in good standing. You've registered in SAMS. You've got your EIN. You've got your unique entity identifier. All those things will be asked in this section. Any supporting documentation, we talked about those letters of commitment. You want to make sure that anybody that's going to buy from you or who is going to support you through a letter of support, they do that here, that you've got any hires, any resumes, any letters from applicants that say they want to work for you and will work for you if you get that funding. Where to find help? Again, the program is administered through rural development. If you have any type of disability, you can contact the Department of Agriculture for alternative communications. The center has, as Lydia said, is offering discounted grant writing services for folks here in Maryland, Delaware, and Virginia, and the District of Columbia. Another place for you to find help is your Small Business Administration. There are small business development centers that are able to provide counseling and training, either online, in the classroom, that are available to help you develop your business plans, help you get business registrations, and the like. The other thing in Virginia, we have an organization that's part of the Virginia Farm Bureau, the Virginia Fairs, which is the Virginia Foundation for Agriculture Innovation and Rural Sustainability, that also acts just like the center to help with grant writing. This is the organization I used when I had to do my feasibility study. CAC, of course, is here to help you, and hope that you will use them and continue on your grant writing journey. Also, these are the contacts for the heads of rural development in Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia. The last recommendation I have is don't wait to the last minute to apply. Make sure that you're equipped to participate, that you understand this program and all that's involved. Make sure you understand how the program's going to be scored and you put your best effort into the application. If you are a new producer, if you're looking at getting an operational or working capital grant, you've got to have some baseline information. The focus of this program is on growth, not equipment or building infrastructure. Also, understanding what resources are available and taking advantage of them. And lastly, if you don't receive the grant, apply again, learn from the opportunity, get your grant score sheet, and reapply. Also ask for an independent review before you submit your application. These are highly competitive grants, and I can't stress that. Make sure that you give it your best effort. You can also track your application if you apply in grants.gov. You have to have when you submit, you'll get a tracking number, and you can use the portal to track where it is in the process. Again, you've got to make sure that you keep your SAMS registration active. If you don't have an active SAMS registration, you will not be able to receive payments.